Junior Mining Weekly, StockPulse.com production, where we track the action of the individual equities markets within the commodity sector. We're here at January 10th, 2020. Today's sponsor is Amex Exploration. Amex trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange as AMX.V, has made multiple high-grade gold discoveries in the Abitibi Greenstone Gold Belt of Quebec, Canada. The property is surrounded by multiple producing gold mines and located on a year-round road next to the town of Normetal. Amex is in the middle of a fully funded 100,000-meter drill program aimed at building ounces of at least 3 gold zones while exploring for more zones along the 15 kilometers of regional faults. Drilling has begun, and there are 3 drills turning on the property. In fact, one of them we'll talk about today. Amex is managed by a seasoned mine-finding financiers, all of whom invested their own capital into the company here. So, good company here, Amex Exploration. Okay, first week, first show, 2020, Al. Gold in a good spot. Seems like some hope here for some of these juniors. Why don't you lay out how you see the overall vibe as we start the new year?
Well, I'm always looking for the trend that leads to the next trend. And this year we saw some good stuff in that the tax loss selling season seemed to end in November, when usually it can last right until the, let's say, second to third week in December. This year it got off to December. We started to see some stocks, and we're actually going to talk about a couple of them later on, that saw their stocks starting to perform better well before the traditional time that you see the tax loss selling happen. And that led into a sort of early Santa Claus rally, especially in the price of gold. We saw probably around the 20th or so, it broke out significantly from the 1470 range, and then by early January, it was let's say a week ago, it got up over, just a few days ago actually, it got up over $1,600 an ounce. Now, some of that action is being blamed on the recent Iran and the bombings and stuff that the U.S. is doing, but you got to keep in mind that about $100 of that move was already happened well before anything happened in Iran. So, yeah, we're seeing some of that pop and then give back some gains kind of action. But I was really happy to see that early end to the tax loss selling for a lot of quality stocks, and then we saw a Santa Claus rally for the gold price. That often tells you what's going to happen in the first week of January. The first week of January is often a sign of what's going to happen in January, and what happens in January often happens throughout the year. So let's look a little closer into that first week of January. We started the year, the first day of trading, at about 1550. Then we had, I think, a continuation for a couple days of the trend. Then we saw a pop based on the Fed, the action of the U.S. Killing that general over in Iran, and that popped the gold price over 1,600. I think it was a bit of a fake pop. The trend would have taken us near there anyways, but we got kind of a fake pop, and then when things seemed to de-escalate somewhat, it's come back. But what I really find positive about the comeback is that the last time it ran up to 1550 level in September, that was the sort of the peak, 1550. But what we're seeing after the pop to over 1600 is now it's that what was the former resistance is now seeming to be the support level. That tells me that the rest of January should be very positive. We're having a positive day today. We're recording on a Friday, the 10th, and it's at the moment up $4.80. So yeah, it's I think green light is go for gold in January. I think it's going to have a very good January effect reading, which will indicate that we should have a good year. I think in our last Junior Mining Weekly, we kind of did an Outlook 2020, and I'm expecting something in the 25% to 30% gain for gold this year, which should get us, near 2,000. 2K in 2020. How does that sound?
I think that'd make a lot of these juniors happy, that's for
You
sure.
got that right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of one here, I know you're a fan of. You wrote a nice report for Amex Exploration, a third drill mobilized at the Perone project, 100,000 meter program. It's a big one here. Run through it.
Yeah, well, I was really happy they joined as a sponsor of the of StockPulse because that gives me the opportunity to then look close, do a more thorough. I do the hidden treasures for our sponsors, and I also do a research report. Again, it goes back to what I said in past shows, Rob, about how so much of the industry media, BNNs of the world, and the brokerage houses have stopped coverage. They've really abandoned the space, and we're trying to fill that void. And Amex was a perfect example of filling that void. We made a good pick. We made good coverage of them back in November. They were trading at maybe $1.05, $1.10 kind of range. Today they're up to $1.53. So that's a pretty significant move in a couple of months. And I think it's indicative of the kind of research and reporting we do, and the quality that we invite to be sponsors. And what has moved that stock up so nicely is early in the new year, they announced 4.1 meters of 41 grams per ton gold at their Perron project. Now they've added a third drill rig to the Perron project, which was well received just in the last day or so. And then I also think that the market is probably anticipating a new round of assay results. It's about time that they could be having some more assay results, and the market seems to get a good sense of when this is going to happen. So, yeah, I think they could drop some good assay results on us at any time. And with the third drill rig on the project, they'll have a very good flow of news. And the company has, on a fully diluted basis, probably about a 100 million valuation. This is the kind of project that I could see easily having a $200 to $300 million valuation with gold, let's say north of 1,600, which I think we're going to see happen this year. So very optimistic about the company, and super excited that they're a sponsor of our website.
Concur with that, and certainly a big thanks to Amex Exploration for their sponsorship. Next one up here, Generation Mining, GENM on the CN. Puts out a very robust PEA on the Marathon Palladium project. Run through why you like this one.
Yeah, GenM's another one that we picked up in the fall, and it was kind of a sideways action on the stock. And I think I even mentioned to you in a show that, it's kind of odd to me, the price of palladium is doing very well. These guys have a good palladium project for, the last couple months of December, well, almost since April. It had been going sideways, let's say at about a 28-cent price on average. We picked it up. It was trading at around 20 cents or so. It firmed up in December to around back up to the 28-cent level. And then after they put this resource calculation out, it popped up significantly. It broke out and traded as high as 46 cents. Today it's at 42.5 cents, trading on much more volume. So it was one of those ones I look at and I go, man, this stock shouldn't be sitting here at around 28 cents or so. And I guess the PEA was the catalyst that got people off the fence. And instead of going sideways, now it's going in a positive trend that I thought it should have been on earlier. But, now we've got a good trend. And this is a very interesting palladium project in Ontario that I think if investors want exposure to a palladium story, this is a darn good one for them to get involved with.
Okay, next up here, Probe Metals, PRB, starts drilling on their project in Quebec. I know you like this area. Announced a 2020 exploration program at the Val-d'Or East project in Quebec. Run through this one for us.
Probe, this is the second iteration of Probe. Probe had previously made a big discovery. They were bought out. They were the talk of the town at the PDAC. They won a Prospector of the Year award, and the same group of leadership has now started Probe Metals. And Probe Metals has sort of had a range of $1.53 to 90 cents throughout this year. Then now they're trading at $1.16 today. The news that caught my attention was they announced that they've started drilling at their Val-d'Or project in Quebec. I'm a big fan of Quebec exploration. The country or the province is very receptive to mining and exploration and development. And what they did in this recent news release is they highlighted the work that they had done in 2019 and 2020 and the work coming up. And they're a good group of people. They know what they're doing. They've had big success in the past, and they're teeing it up to have that success again. And definitely one I think that people want to keep an eye on is Probe. Probably, you always want to be looking for weakness in these stocks, and when you get them close to the 52-week lows, that's probably a pretty good entry point. Right now they're trading at $1.16, so that's 26 cents above their 52-week low, and still pretty good amount below the high. So it's probably a pretty good entry point somewhere in between $1.16 and $1 kind of range. So look for that opportunity with Probe.
Okay, next one up here. Now we've talked about again. Going to commence some drilling here. Nevada Gold Exploration 2020 drilling program at the South Grass Valley Carlin type gold project. A lot of anticipation here. I want you to run through this one.
Well, yeah, I'm not the only one. This has been a big pick of John Kaiser's for a number of years. Why he liked it and sort of brought my attention to it was the company's doing sort of a unique way of looking at exploration in Nevada. The rocks that host all the mines are kind of in the mountainous areas, and down in the valley you've got sand and cover, and so it's the same kind of rocks are below that cover. But when you've got anywhere from 20 to 100 meters of cover, it makes it difficult. Well, for one, you can't go and sample rock that's outcropping because it's covered. It also has a way of making your geophysics and other methods a little more challenging. So what these guys have been doing is they use groundwater and look for the chemical signatures that you would see in a classic sort of Nevada mine. And it's not an exact science, but my question has always been, well, could the water be moving those minerals a fair distance, or maybe even from the nearby mines? And so to sort of answer that question, what they did is they got this, they did up a new rig, and it was a portable rig. I even believe they were able to put it on the back of one of those quads, and it could quickly go down and drill through the cover and get some samples at the bedrock. And so now you've got the water anomaly, and they've drilled these scout holes, let's call them, and the scout holes, and that's pointing to, hey, we've got something here. So now they're going deeper. Now they're going into the bedrock, and now if this works, it could open up half the state is full of covered rock. So this could give them the key to unlocking, multiple new discoveries in Nevada. Nevada's a monstrous producer of gold already and for a long time. And, if they could unlock that other half of the state, well, what's their valuation here? Let me get an idea of what their current valuation is. 96 million, let's say 100 million shares at 37 cents. So they got a 37 million dollar market value in Canadian dollars. Well, if they unlock that mystery, you could be looking at multi-billion valuations. So it's a real swing for the fences. They're doing some interesting geological work. It reminds me a lot of the stuff that I used to do in diamond exploration, where you're looking for such small things in diamonds that you got to use other stuff to lead you to where the diamond should be. And that's what they're kind of been doing here in Nevada for gold. And now they're drilling deep to, try to hit it out of the park. Even if it fails, I think investors might want to own a little bit of this, because for the cost of the lottery ticket could be worth a lot.
One that's frequently on the radar here, Skeena Resources, Golden Triangle, drilling year-round. More good intersects here at Snip. Run it down.
Yes, we picked this one up back, I think, around November-ish. And what sort of stood out to me was the fact that they could drill throughout the year, where most of the Golden Triangle plays are done for 6 months of the year. And because they were able to keep drilling throughout the year, there's a sort of contrary seasonal play. Usually you can count on all these Golden Triangle stocks to sort of roll over in January, December, when they put out they've got all their news releases out, then they get everything out, then they got to wait, 5 months or 4 months to get back in drilling. Whereas these guys, when we picked them up, they were trading at, let's say, 60 cents. And then he kind of went sideways around that range until the beginning of the new year. And then they popped up dramatically, traded as high as 96 cents. And the reason for that was they continue to put out very good results. One of the results from December was 1.5 meters of 1,131 grams of gold at their Snip project. Recently, they just had another drill result out, 5.1 meters of 16 grams of 0.64 grams of gold at Snip. So, they're hitting with the truth machine. They can keep on drilling all year. This is a famous old project at their SK and Snip mines. They were the ones that caused the Golden Triangle to be so exciting in the 80s and the 90s. Back in the 80s and the 90s, when the price of gold and silver was a lot cheaper, they had a very high grade, cutoff grade, over 10 grams of gold kind of. If it wasn't 10 grams or more, they had to leave it. So now Skeena has come back in and bought these projects and are going after what was left over by the old miners. And they're having no problem whatsoever finding new gold and filling in where with what was left over. This is why they, now they've got, what is it, let's say 123 million times 90. So they've got $100 and some million valuation. And for them to be trading near their 52-week high as a Golden Triangle play in January is quite unique. And the range on that one's 96 cents on the high to 26.5 cents on the low. We picked it up about the middle of that range. Today they're trading at 85 cents. It's a good-looking project. I love high-grade projects. They've got all the infrastructure from the past mining, and now they're finding a lot more gold so that was left over, and can probably find some more new zones as well. So I'm quite optimistic about that company, and I think it's very similar to what I said earlier about our sponsor Amex. I could easily see a company like this having a $200 to $300 million valuation with not even needing a whole lot of positive action in the price of gold to get there. So, act accordingly. I like this one a lot, and I think it's one that investors into exploration play should have in their portfolio, especially if they like high grade like me.
Yeah, another one that hits the mark quite often here. White Gold had a good update, actually trying to round up Sean Ryan, but intercepts high-grade gold on 5 new drill targets at JP Ross. So run through this one and why you like it.
Yeah, we picked this one up a few months ago. It's another one that I think has got a very bright future. They had a low in November of about 75 cents. I think we picked up the story somewhere around there on news. Then they popped up to, let's say, about $1.18. Currently trading at a little over $1. I think about, what is it, $1.06 today. It's a Sean Ryan story. Sean's had up in the Yukon, has had success in the past. He was the guy who found a couple of important discoveries up there that were subsequently bought out by majors. The juniors investors did very well, and he's trying to do it again. And he's got more than one kick at the can this time. He's the JP Ross. It came back with 16 meters of 2.31 grams at their Hen deposit project. They got 6 meters of 72 grams of gold. So they've got, and then they got their White Gold project, 11 meters of 2.66. They got their, you see where I'm going with this, Rob? They've got several projects that are looking pretty interesting, and with Sean's past success in that area, and being a takeover candidate, I think he can do it again, and I think he will. And this is the kind of thing that investors want to be looking for any chance. Now they are up in an area where they can't get in there all season. So if you see any weakness, anything close to that buck range, I think investors are going to be doing pretty darn good to be accumulating this on any weakness.
Okay, last one on the list, Galway Metals, GWM on the venture. It's some good drill results on their gap between the Richard and Jubilee at Clarence Streams. I know you like this one. We've talked about it. Run through it.
Yeah, it's another one of these ones that, like the GNM that we talked about earlier, it kind of, I don't know what to say. It perplexes me that the stock is not it's sort of just going sideways like Gen M did. Then all of a sudden Gen M got a catalyst that made it pop up. These guys have literally been going sideways since February of last year with an average price of, let's say, 33 cents. Today, it's at 33 cents on 99,000 shares of volume. Yet, today, or just yesterday, they announced 4.75 meters of 20 grams at their Clarence project. They also had, not long ago, 12 meters of 3 grams. Clarence Stream, 9.5 meters of 20 grams. I'm just going through some of the highlights of the news releases. 43 meters of 1.9 grams at their Jubilee project. They think that these various zones might all work into one big zone. And, for the quality of the project, that's what perplexes me, to see them going sideways. And especially if you consider that the team that Galway has, this is sort of the second iteration. They previously were bought out and made their shareholders a bunch of money, so they've got a good audience, and yet the stock just keeps going sideways, even when they put out good results. This is a breakout in the making that's just looking for a catalyst, and that's why I like that one a lot. And I think at any point we could get a catalyst that sees the breakout. So probably want to be buying it before the breakout, because the quality of the project is definitely there.
Okay, good breakdown. Appreciate that. So seasonality has been our theme here. 2020 is here, like you talked about at the start. Gold's in a good spot. Will it get down to the equities? What are you identifying here to maybe get investors ahead of the game?
Excellent question. Yeah, that's the sort of disconnect. The price of gold has been on a very strong seasonality play since what we talked about earlier, Santa Claus rally, January first week, January effect, that sort of stuff. Then you also look at the trend in the price of gold from September. The high was 1550. It bottomed out at 1450, creating a very nice left side of the cup and handle formation. Then the cup bottomed out in November. By about the third week in December, it started to break out and create the right side of the cup. And now we've got the handle coming in at higher than the previous hurdle or resistance, which was in September at about 1550. So this is a very bullish trend that we're seeing. We've got good supply and demand fundamentals for gold, and that also can say the same thing about silver and some of the precious or base metals that we follow. And yet, a lot of the gold stocks, we're seeing good performance. I mean, without being bragging too much, I mean, I'm a pretty good filter of quality, and some of the quality picks have already moved up. I mean, look at something like an Amex. It's up it's close to 30% in a couple months. We're looking at Gen M. It's just had a big breakout. So our index, if you will, is a lot different than the average junior out there. And in the average junior out there, they really haven't joined the party yet. I think they will. It could be a situation much like that Gen M stock, going sideways for a bunch of months. Then all of a sudden they put out a catalyst of a news release on the preliminary economic assessment. People get excited and the stock goes up 50% in a matter of days. That's the kind of action that I think we're going to be seeing in fits and starts throughout the rest of this year, with a bullish bias underneath that. So yeah, it's sort of, I think the quality juniors are going to show one of those charts that start on the lower left and go to the upper right throughout this year. So I'm very optimistic, but I think the juniors on average are just looking for an excuse to break out and start performing a lot better.
Yeah, before I let you go here on that point, when will there be an event, you believe, that causes the bottom layer of these guys, or are these lowest of low-level juniors that are looking for a higher tide to raise all boats, are they still a year out, you think, or is this the year that everyone gets a little taste of this?
I don't really care about those small ones. I don't even care about some of the bigger ones. I mean, some of these companies, it just boggles my mind to see their lack of effort in promotion, their lack of effort in running a real company. They're dropping the ball on their digital marketing. They spend tons of money on conferences and stuff like that, which then they've also got expensive exploration projects where helicopter supported, diesel powered, so they all are breaking their stock structure. And so a lot of them, don't even deserve to move up. We're focused on the quality stories, and I think those will, we should put together an index soon, Rob, of the companies that we've picked for our commodity brief shows and our hidden treasure shows and other shows that we're going to do in the future, and show people what the difference between quality and junk is. I think the junky ones with, that are dropping the balls all over the place on their marketing efforts, they're spending too much money on their promotion when they don't even know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to write news releases properly. They can't do their websites properly. They're just jokes of companies, and there's lots of those out there, and I think they'll continue to be jokes. I think that our shows and the research and reporting that we're doing is going to make our audience much more connoisseurs of what to look for, and those kind of companies that we could put into our own index. I think you'll see vastly outperform the junior indexes that most people look at, and the price of the underlying commodities.
Okay, good breakdown. That's it for this week's show. If you're a fan of the information, please subscribe to the channel and share the broadcast. Back next week for more informative CEO interviews that hopefully you can utilize to get ahead and enhance your portfolio.